cultivate a peaceful home through order and discipline. Hello ladies, it's Raquel here. Today, let's talk about establishing a peaceful home through order and discipline. When I think of a peaceful home, I think of a home and a homemaker that is free of unmanaged chaos. Let me say that again. A home that is free of unmanaged chaos. Life always presents a little chaos in some form or another, but the peaceful home manages it and certainly doesn't create it. In today's video, I'm going to give you 10 very practical and specific tips that I have applied in my home and my homemaking in order to establish a peaceful home that you might consider applying in your home. Of course, all of our homes are different, all of our styles of doing things, our flavor is different, and that's certainly a very beautiful thing that God has created so much diversity in His world. And so what I'm sharing here has been helpful for me, and I hope that they're going to be helpful for you, but definitely take what you like, adjust as needed, or just do away with something altogether if it's not working for you and not working for your home. Now, if this video gets 100 likes, I am going to release a bonus video with 5 additional tips because I'll know that you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more content like it. So make sure if you enjoy this video, you don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Now, before we get into the 10 specific tips I have for you today, I want to share something regarding Paul's words in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 14. He uses some really interesting language for the keeper of the home. He says in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 14, "I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully." Now, the Greek word for the phrase guide the house, I'm going to put that up here on the screen because I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not a Greek scholar. Is defined by the Complete Word Study Bible as to be master of the house with emphasis on absolute rule, to govern or manage a household or the domestic affairs of a family, the ruler of the home. And I really think Paul's language there is interesting. We, as the keepers of the home, are the rulers of the home. The management of the home is ours to direct. The flow of the day is ours. The atmosphere of the home is ours. All the workings of the home are yours and mine to manage as we see fit. So we have the really wonderful opportunity to truly make our home. And I find that so exciting. But it is also a responsibility and something that we need to consider soberly and intentionally dedicate ourselves to. In fact, here in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 14, it connects guiding or ruling the home with not giving occasion to the adversary. And in Titus chapter 2, it speaks about keeping the home as one of the things that we should learn so that the word of God is not blasphemed. So we should be taking our role in the home incredibly seriously and seeking out how we can manage our homes well. Peaceful homes don't just happen. They are cultivated through intention. And one of those areas that we are intentional about as homemakers is orderliness and discipline. So here we go, 10 tips to cultivate a peaceful home through order and discipline. Tip number 1 is to wake up at the same time every morning, preferably between about 5 and 7-ish a.m. Now, some of you ladies may like to wake up at 4 a.m. Let me know if that's you in the comments. And some of you might like to wake up at 7:30 or 8 o'clock. The key here, though, is that it is at the same time every morning. Morning time is key. We want to get a good start on our day at a decent hour so that we're not falling behind all the time. I know that there was a season of my life where I felt like I was constantly cooking. I was making breakfast and lunch and dinner and not getting anything else in my day. And the reason why is because I was waking up, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then I'm making a late breakfast, and then I'm making a late lunch, and then I'm making, trying to make an early dinner, and I end up making a late dinner. And so my whole day, I'm just making food because I've woken up late and I'm just trying to catch up with the meal times. And so I corrected that by waking up at the same hour every morning. When it's 9 and I'm just getting up and I'm just getting dressed and I still have to make breakfast and do all the normal morning type routines and chores, then I feel so incredibly behind and like my day is already gone and wasted. So I used to wake up consistently at 5 a.m. That's not working for me anymore for some reason, so I'm waking up at 6 o'clock a.m. And waking up at the same time every day is not only helpful for scheduling and knowing what you can accomplish in the morning because you have a consistent start time, it's also really important for establishing consistency in our character. And discipline in the small things gradually builds to having discipline in the big things, as well as contributing to us not being behind all day and being stressed and feeling rushed and hectic and like we're not accomplishing what we want to do. Tip number 2 is to have our meals at the same time every day. And the reason for this tip is that it provides some stability and structure in our day. So for example, if I need to go to town one day, but I don't want to eat out for health reasons and to save some money, then I'll say, okay, let's go to town after lunch. No specific time, I'm not in a rush, but I do need a good portion of the day to do my errands in town. We'll go after lunch. And I know that my lunch is always at 12 o'clock and lasts until about 12:30. Then I know what time I'm going to be leaving for town. I'm going to know that I have enough time to do the things that I need to do in town. And also because I have kept my routine and my schedule the same as far as being at home, I'm not rushing out the door frantically and then leaving a big mess behind me. I've continued my cleanup after lunch. We've all gotten dressed. It's not like throw on clothes and leave the dishes there. We'll clear the table later. We got to get to town. And, there's not a frantic rush. There's peace there. Versus if I don't have a consistent time for lunch, well, some lunch days might be at 11:30, but other days might be at 2 or 2:30. And so if I want to go to town, I say, we'll just go after lunch, then I might not have enough time left in my day to go to town if I serve lunch at 2:30. Or, like I just described, it might be we have to go to town now, and so let's just leave the table as is and just run out the door. Or it might be that you say, you know what, I don't have time to make lunch anyway. And so what do? You end up going out to eat, you're getting that unhealthy food, and you're spending the money that you didn't initially want to spend. So having our meals at the same time every day provides a lot of stability and structure within our day. Tip number 3 is to wear a watch. Did you know that there was a study that showed a correlation between more successful people and those who wear a watch? Wearing a watch seems to make us more conscientious of the time, helping us to manage our time throughout the day, as well as to be more efficient with our time and how long it takes us to do something. I have a personal story here as well. I mean, like I said, all these tips come from my real life. But when I was a student teacher in a kindergarten classroom, I was responsible for giving this 15-minute lesson every single day that was just before recess or lunch or something like that. And I had to fulfill that 15 minutes and not go any longer. And I was constantly going over or having to stop the lesson. There just wasn't enough time for everything that I wanted to say and everything that I wanted to do. And I was checking my cell phone, I was setting alarms, I would practice at home my lesson, trying to fit everything within this 15-minute time frame, and I never could do it. That is until my husband happened to buy me a watch. And from the very first lesson that I gave with that watch, I didn't change anything about my plan, but just having the watch, I never again went over my time. I was always able to get everything in that I wanted to do within the right time frame. And I thought, this is so wild. Well, that watch died, as did the second watch that my husband gave me. And now here I am, a homemaker, and I'm having a hard time getting the things done that I want to get through in the day. It seems like things are taking much longer than they should, and like I can't be consistent with meal times or whatnot. And I told my husband, I think I need another watch. It would just be so helpful for me to have another watch. So he bought me a watch, and the same thing happened. From the point that I had the watch on, things started to fall into place. Now this is really interesting because the same study I just mentioned found that although using a mobile phone to check the time is often just as quick and accessible as checking a watch, it was still the watch wearers that were more aware of the time. Looking at a phone doesn't seem to give the same perception of time and have the same effect on punctuality as wearing a watch does, which is so interesting because in both of those cases, I was using the alarms, I was using the timer, I was using my cell phone to check the time, and I still couldn't be consistent with the time until I got a watch. Now, one thing I can say is that phones are just traps for distraction. You go to look at the time and you see a notification, oh, I'm just gonna respond to this YouTube comment really quickly, and before you know it, it's 30 minutes later and you just finished that comment and now you need to get back into the groove of what it was that you were doing. So I don't know if it's the distraction element that makes a cell phone less effective than wearing a watch, but it's very interesting. Maybe it's like the knot that's tied around your finger, or maybe it's like the zit that you wear on the four corners of your garment, but however it works, wearing a watch facilitates us in the ordering of our home, thereby helping us to create a peaceful home. Tip number 4 is to double plan. And this is a strategy where you look at your day, not just through your own eyes, but through the eyes of your children as well. And you plan what mama will do and what the child will do. I have found for us homeschooling mamas especially that this double plan strategy can be very helpful. I also noticed that Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead does this strategy every single day within her planner, but I personally just do the double plan for my general flow of the day. You can see on my daily flow that when I am homeschooling Abigail, I've also planned that Malachi and Hannah are either at the table with us drawing or reading quietly, or they're outside playing. They're not trying on several different outfits and leaving all this clean laundry all over the beds and the floors and in the dirty clothes hamper. They're not playing board games or bringing out puzzles. They're not dancing or doing karate inside. And believe me, in the time it takes to homeschool, they would do all of that and more. And there are times for dress up and board games and dancing and karate, but in my home, that's not during homeschooling. Double planning helps us to order all the different activities that are going on in a way that's manageable for us. And it can help minimize reliance on screen time because I'm not grasping at something that my kids can do while I need to focus on something else. So definitely give double planning a consideration in your homemaking. Tip number 5 is to maintain. You want to reach a place of maintenance in your homemaking, not always playing catch up with Laundry Mountain or Dirty Dish C. You may have to initially do the really big clean or declutter or whatever, but from that point on, consistency is key, and you want to just maintain from there on out, doing a little bit every day. Now, there are so many different ways that you can order this and break things up. Some people will do Monday is laundry, Tuesday is whatever. For me personally, I like to do a task of the day, and that's when I break up kind of those more deep cleaning weekly tasks into one task per day. So it might be the bathroom, it might be dusting and cleaning all the windows, etc. One task every day. I like to do one load of laundry a day. Also like to do 2 15-minute speed cleans, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, to just kind of keep it tidy and orderly. Now, since we moved into the RV, which this is not the RV, I'll talk about where I'm at later. I like to do just a complete RV clean once a day plus one load of laundry every day. And the reason why I do a whole RV clean every single day except for Shabbat is because it gets dirty so quickly, but at the same time it's a much smaller space, and so it gets clean a lot quicker. The other day I did the dishes. It was a whole sink full of dishes, but it only took me about 10 minutes, and that was because RV sinks are a little bit smaller than everyone else's sink. But most people cannot relate to living in an RV, and with a normal sized home, a little every day really goes a long way. But then with tasks like decluttering, you know, those bigger projects, which I still have to do in the RV, believe it or not, I like to just keep a pile or a box always going, and I'm just, as I see something that I don't need, don't want, it's not necessary in my home anymore, I declutter it right then and there. I never really have just I'm gonna sit down and declutter this whole room or declutter this whole closet anymore. I do occasionally, so like when we moved from Idaho to Texas, as I was packing, I was decluttering, but usually it's just an item here and an item there, and that keeps my home decluttered without piling more on my plate, more tasks, more projects that I have to do. Strive to reach that place of maintenance rather than having to do these big projects that take up a lot of your time, a lot of your mental energy, and until you get to them, take up a lot of your peace and tidiness in your home. Now, speaking of decluttering, tip number 6 is to spend some time minimizing and simplifying, because the truth is that we cannot manage it all. No one can manage absolutely everything, and we have to choose what we're willing to manage. So identify the stressors in your life and simplify them. You choose what you have to and want to manage, and then declutter the rest. That means, of course, that there are going to be different levels of minimizing and different areas that we minimize in, because what each of us has to and wants to manage is going to be different. Of course, clothing and items in our homes and in our yards and in our garages that we may want to consider minimizing, but also things like apps on our cell phone or subscriptions in our YouTube feed. You know, what's cluttering your mind? Minimizing will go a long way in establishing your peace and the peace into your home. Now, tip number 7 is one that I highly recommend, but I'm still not the best at doing. It's, some habits are hard to break. And tip number 7 is to do one thing at a time. Single tasking, not multitasking, is your friend. I used to think that the key to productivity was multitasking, when actually, every time I try to edit a video and make breakfast, I pretty much always take longer to edit the video, take longer to make breakfast, and sometimes I accidentally burn breakfast. Just a little bit. So as it turns out, multitasking isn't so wonderful for productivity or serenity in our homes. Research has shown a 20% decline in productivity, lower quality outcomes, and significantly higher stress levels from multitasking. It's because your brain isn't actually doing two things at once. It's constantly switching back and forth between multiple things. And that's actually incredibly stressful for our brains. I initially heard about single tasking or just doing one thing at a time from Lisa at the farmhouse on Boone, and if I can find that video, I will definitely link it in the description box. She goes into it a lot more. It may have actually been a podcast of hers. Doing just one thing at a time doesn't mean that we can't pause our meal planning, for example, to change the baby's diaper, grab something for our husbands, but it does mean that we're not meal planning and trying to cook dinner and trying to watch a movie all at the same time. And I have found that when I focus on one thing at a time, I get things done so much faster. I'm not feeling hectic and rushed and like I'm trying to juggle multiple things, because I'm not. And whatever it is that I'm working on ends up being better tasting, not burnt, higher quality outcome overall. Still have a long ways to go when it comes to single tasking, but I'm starting to single task a lot more than multitasking, and it's just done wonders for establishing peace in my mind and in my home. Tip number 8, that is 9. Tip number 8 is to have a method to our madness. All of us are so different. Things that work for me may not work for you, and vice versa. What works for me may work for you, but with alterations. We're all so different. There is a method to our madness. We all kind of fall into natural routines and systems, and we hear about things and we try them out and then we fine-tune them to fit us. But you really need to write them down somewhere, because what happens when life does throw us a little bit of chaos, when we are feeling a little bit busy, suddenly we can't remember what in the world we cook for dinner. I have no idea what I cook for dinner, even though I make 3 meals a day every single day of the week. All of a sudden, I can't remember what my order is to cleaning the bathroom. Like, where do I start? It's just this huge mess. But when we write down our methods to our madness, when we have clarity of mind, then when we don't have clarity of mind, we can go back and consult what we've written down and say, oh yes, very first thing I do is wipe down the countertops in the bathroom, or okay, I have these options to choose from for dinner. And then also when we have it written down, then we're able to better pinpoint what is and what is not working for us in our schedules and routines and systems and whatnot. It's a lot easier to say, okay, all this part of my system is working except for this one part. We've written it down, we've kind of broken it down, and we're able to then pinpoint those areas that need adjustment and improvement. So definitely write down the method to your madness. I actually found this through my postpartum times. One of the number one things that I recommend to women who are going to become mothers, whether for the first time, the second time, third time, anytime, is to write down what's working for you before you have the baby, because when baby comes, then of course there might be some adjustments you have to make, but you're not starting from scratch. You're not feeling lost until you refigure everything out again. But this can apply, of course, to women who are not mothers as well. Maybe you're moving or something, or there's just going to be some type of big event that happens in your life. Knowing how you homemake and what works well for you is just really helpful when that big event comes. So write down the methods to your madness. Number 9 is to meal plan to some extent. I know some women do not like to meal plan. Personally, I don't like to meal plan, but I definitely see the value in it, and so I do it. Because what is worse than coming to the time to make dinner and you have no idea what to make, and you open up the refrigerator and you open up the pantry and you open up the freezer and nothing comes to your mind of what you can cook. And then the one thing that does come to your mind is frozen. Not knowing what to cook when it's time to cook is probably one of the most chaotic, unpeaceful things I could describe in the life of a homemaker. It's the worst. And so I meal plan to some extent. When I first started out, I would say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm making these things, and I would stick to it. But now I kind of just have about 7 meals that, I can make. I know I have the ingredients to make them, and I just pick and choose as I like, either the night before or the morning of, and that works out really well for me now. I do keep a master list of all the different things that I've made, that I enjoy making, that I usually have ingredients on hand for. That way, if I'm just completely blank, I can't think of anything, or maybe I can only think of the things that I made last week, I can consult that master list and get some fresh ideas. I'm definitely a lot more flexible with my meal planning now than what I used to be. Some people meal plan by the month. Some people meal plan bi-weekly, others weekly. You really just have to figure out what works for you, and what works for you might change depending on the season. I've done so many different meal planning methods. Some seasons I need more structure, and then other seasons I can be more spontaneous and I have a lot more flexibility, but it's the planning that allows that flexibility and allows that spontaneity. Another thing about meal planning is that you're going to be more resourceful as a homemaker, using things that you already have, using up leftovers. You're also going to prepare more nutritious meals that in turn is going to help your body, your mood and attitude, and that of your families as well. I definitely encourage you, if you are not already, start meal planning to some extent. Not only is it going to help you with tip number 2, having consistent meal times, but it's also going to go a long way in establishing peace in your home. And finally, tip number 10 is to know your finances. Maybe this means budgeting for you, but at the very least, just knowing what you spend on things that you are in charge of managing. For example, the food budget, home decor budget, clothing for the children, things of that nature. Financial stress is one of the most common reasons given for marital discord and divorce in our country, which is so sad, because if we just know our finances, if we know what our income is, if we know what our expenses are, any irregular bills that are coming up, then we can properly respond to them. But if we just close a blind eye, I don't want to know, then we may not be responding well to them, and it's going to cause stress and it's going to cause problems later on. So examine your spending habits as a homemaker, what you're spending eating out, what you're spending making food at home, what you're spending on household products and things of that nature, and be honest with yourself. I know that sometimes I like to think, oh, we don't eat out that much, and so we don't spend that much money on eating out, when some seasons of life we do spend quite a bit of money on eating out. And with food prices going up, then of course it just takes me by surprise when I look at the number and I'm like, wow, we spent so much money eating out. So when you know what you're spending and you know what you can spend, maybe nothing has to change, but maybe something does. You can now respond accurately and effectively because you know what you're dealing with. I just encourage you, don't let there be marital discord or lack of peace in your home because of financial stress due to just not knowing what your budget is. Not knowing that, oh, I'm actually spending more than I thought on this area when I don't need to. Know your finances so that you can effectively respond to what that information is. All right, ladies, so there you have it. 10 tips, practical, specific things that I have done in my life to help establish peace in my home and peace in my mind as a homemaker. I definitely want to share with you my 5 additional tips, but I need to know that you are interested. So please give this video a thumbs up, and when it reaches 100 likes, I'm gonna release that bonus video. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that you were encouraged as the keeper of your home, as the guide of your home, the ruler of your home, to manage your home well through orderliness and discipline. Order and discipline are one aspect of cultivating a peaceful home, and I hope you found these tips helpful to that end. Let me know in the comments if you have any really great tips regarding cultivating a home through orderliness and discipline. I would love to hear what they are. I can't wait to talk with you in the comments. Until next time, I pray that Yahweh would bless you and keep you. I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.